without further ado, I introduce to you Attorney General of Maryland, Anthony Brown.
All right, thank you, Jennifer, and certainly what an honor it is to be here today. It's a big day, a big announcement, and I want to start by thanking my colleagues in public service who are with me, who will be introduced, and many of whom will speak, for their commitment to the public. Today is really about public safety, public health, and environmental stewardship, and it all comes together, I think, in the work leading up to today and today's announcement. So I want to thank Maryland's Department of the Environment Secretary, McElwain, and Mayor Scott, who represents the more than 500,000 residents of Baltimore City and the residents whose homes, schools, and playgrounds surround this area of industry and this facility behind me, the Curtis Bay Energy Medical Waste Incinerator. I want to thank the Principal IG for Investigations, Chihuahua, from the U.S. Department of Transportation, and certainly want to thank the members of the Environmental and Natural Resources Crime Unit, Assistant Attorneys General Talley and Lemmert, and Investigator Waugh. It's their hard work and diligence, led by and in cooperation and coordination by others, but really has brought us to today. And also, you'll hear from the chief of our criminal division, Katie Dorian. It is the people of Baltimore and Marylanders broadly for whom we've taken these serious and impactful actions against the previous owners of this medical waste incinerator. Residents here and the communities around the facility, in particular, will benefit from one of the largest penalties the Office of the Attorney General has ever exacted in an environmental crimes case. Curtis Bay Energy's medical waste incinerator, to be certain, is the largest medical waste incinerator in the United States. Medical facilities from multiple states and Canada send their special medical waste here. Special medical waste, like what is it? It's typically what you see goes into those red bags in hospitals and laboratories, or it's marked biohazard materials. You see them in hospitals and medical facilities, and it is waste that is likely to have been contaminated by an organism capable of causing disease in healthy humans. Because of the nature of special medical waste and its risk to public health, it is regulated. It is highly regulated by both the Maryland Department of the Environment and the Maryland Department of Health. It's why those who are responsible for handling, treating, disposing, and transporting special medical waste are held to strict standards. And it's why we hold them accountable when they fail to meet those standards. In just a moment, we're going to take you through the facts of our case, but know this. It is what the previous owner of Curtis Bay Energy didn't do when they received this special medical waste that was most egregious. They regularly failed to properly burn or incinerate or treat the medical waste. Instead, as you see in our evidence photos, they disposed of the medical waste as mounds of raw or uncooked medical waste. They often loaded this dangerous, uncooked medical waste and unlawfully transported along state roads and federal highways to landfills in Virginia. Often the raw medical waste was leaked from the trucks and was contaminating our communities along the way. The persistent improper treatment of special medical waste created a clear and obvious threat to public health. It was a crime. You'll hear about the dates when we witnessed this untreated special medical waste. It was happening in the weeks leading up to the COVID-19 pandemic, and it continued until the previous owners realized that they were under investigation. But this was only after the previous owners failed to follow their own procedures and the conditions of the permit that was issued by the Maryland Department of the Environment to conduct this very necessary and potentially dangerous work. We documented a pattern and practice by Curtis Bay Energy, willfully disregarding their procedures and the law. Our evidence shows that they knew that they were failing to do what they were required to do. They failed and they got caught. Our investigation also captured actions by personnel knowingly and unlawfully discharging untreated water used in the incineration process into nearby property. When the Department of Environment conducted inspections of the premises, the previous owners deliberately interfered and attempted to conceal illegal discharges during those inspections. Notwithstanding those efforts to conceal, we conducted one of the most detailed investigations undertaken by our Environmental Crimes Unit. Our investigation spanned 3 years, involved hundreds of thousands of pages of documents and dozens of witnesses. Through it all, we uncovered serious and systemic violations of environmental and public health laws. And today, I'm pleased to announce we have a guilty plea and sentencing. On August 18th, Curtis Bay Energy pled guilty to 40 criminal counts. Curtis Bay Energy was ordered to pay $1 million in a criminal fine to the Maryland Clean Water Fund. And they're also paying an additional $750,000 to a supplemental environmental project, or SEP. This is where the residents of Baltimore City will see and feel real impact. The $750,000 SEP is going to be available for residents in communities neighboring this facility as grant money for environmental projects. We're pleased to partner with the Chesapeake Bay Trust, who will be managing the SEP fund. The Chesapeake Bay Trust will engage communities on the ground and ensure community involvement in the projects designed to address the harms done to the community by this polluter. In the coming days and weeks, the Trust will reach out to the community and schedule time to understand their needs and preferences. And let me wrap up by saying that Curtis Bay Energy provides an important and essential service to properly dispose of special medical waste. Under previous ownership, they did not. The public relies on them to do their job and to keep us all safe. They didn't. As a result of this investigation and criminal action, in addition to the criminal penalties and the SEP that I mentioned, they've invested in infrastructure. They created new regulatory oversight positions, and they brought in qualified people to do the work. And they've been reporting even minor violations to MDE as they occur and as they're supposed to do. Marylanders deserve a good quality of life and to know that the businesses around them will adhere to the laws that are designed to protect them. As Attorney General, I commit to you, we will continue to hold Curtis Bay Energy accountable. So for more facts on the case, I'm going to turn it over to Katie Dorian, Chief of our Criminal Division.
Good afternoon. As the Attorney General said, this was a long and thorough investigation conducted by the Environmental and Natural Resources Crimes Unit, standing up here, of the Office of the Attorney General. The investigation, which began in November of 2019, resulted in criminal charges against Curtis Bay Energy, as well as 2 former Curtis Bay Energy employees, Kenneth Jackson, who was the former Director of Plant Operations, and Thomas Kiefer, the former plant manager. Curtis Bay Energy and Kenneth Jackson have pled guilty and been sentenced. Thomas Kiefer's case is still pending. So Thomas Kiefer is presumed innocent unless and until the state can prove his guilt beyond a reasonable doubt in court, and a criminal information is merely an accusation and not a finding of guilt. In sum, the investigation revealed that Curtis Bay Energy, under its previous ownership, overloaded their incinerators and insufficiently burned special medical waste in order to process waste faster, resulting in only partially burned or unburned raw waste left over. This was contrary to both Curtis Bay Energy's standard operating procedures as well as the Code of Maryland regulations, which required that special medical waste be burned to carbonized or mineralized ash to prevent transmission of disease to humans, as such material contained pathogens that can make a healthy human very sick. As the Attorney General mentioned, special medical waste is what you often see in those red bags. It's defined as liquid or semi-liquid blood or another potentially infectious material, a contaminated article that releases liquid or semi-liquid blood or another potentially infectious material if compressed, an article that contains dried blood or another potentially infectious material and is capable of releasing the blood or material during handling, pathological and microbiological waste containing blood or another potentially infectious material, and contaminated sharps and anatomical material. Employees of Curtis Bay Energy had voiced concerns about these practices, but to no avail. Those employees regularly observed insufficiently burned special medical waste such as red bags, surgical gloves, medical supplies, bedding, and more. The special medical waste was commingled with ash onto the ash pad, where the materials were staged for transportation to be disposed of as regular solid waste at commercial landfills. Fires were noted on the ash pad, and on at least one occasion, a load of ash in transit to a Virginia landfill caught fire and burned through the metal transport container. Throughout the investigation, investigators observed Curtis Bay Energy employees load waste from the ash pad into a container that was then transported to a landfill in Virginia where the material was dumped. During the transports, the trailer leaked fluid, so much so that it got on investigators' cars and windshields as they trailed behind the truck conducting surveillance. Once the waste was dumped in the landfill, investigators documented substantial amounts of unburned combustible medical waste, such as plastics, paper, red waste bags, medical gloves, plastic pill bottles, biological material, and more. On multiple separate occasions, subsequent loads of waste from Curtis Bay Energy were rejected and returned by the landfill due to the presence of unburned combustible medical waste in the ash. Management was aware of these problems, and yet employees were directed to send the insufficiently burned special waste for disposal as if it were regular solid waste. Again, this was done in an attempt to process waste more quickly. Curtis Bay Energy records from 2019 indicated that the waste into the plant was up by 10 million pounds over the prior year, while labor costs declined significantly. In addition to the criminal violations regarding the disposal of special medical waste, Curtis Bay Energy also engaged in water violations. The plant is connected to municipal water service, but not municipal sanitary sewer service. As such, all wastewater and processed water that is not reused in facility operations is directed to large holding tanks and then hauled to an off-site wastewater treatment plant for disposal. However, Curtis Bay Energy employees knew of a leaking condenser and set up an unpermitted and illegal pump and hose that ran from the building into the woods, up a hill, into a PVC pipe, through the fence line, and discharged onto an adjacent property. Curtis Bay Energy employees disconnected and concealed the illegal pump to avoid detection during inspections conducted by the Maryland Department of the Environment. During one such inspection by the Maryland Department of the Environment in November of 2019, a call went out over the employees' radios alerting them that inspectors were on the premises. 2 Curtis Bay Energy employees then went to the building and removed the sump pump while the inspectors were intentionally delayed. The Curtis Bay Energy employees knew that this discharge was illegal and reinstalled the pump and hose after the Maryland Department of Environment inspectors left. Curtis Bay Energy entered a guilty plea, as the Attorney General told you, to the 40-count criminal information filed by our office, including charges related to the insufficient treatment and improper handling of special medical waste and the operation and concealment of an unpermitted discharge outlet. On August 18, 2023, Curtis Bay Energy was sentenced to 2 years of probation and was ordered to pay the fine that the Attorney General told you about, which was $1 million to the Maryland Clean Water Fund. And as a special condition of that probation, Curtis Bay Energy will also fund the supplemental environmental project that will direct $750,000 into communities surrounding this facility for environmental projects to protect and improve the environment and reduce risks to public health. This project will be administered by the Chesapeake Bay Trust, a nonprofit grant-making organization. Additionally, on October 2nd, 2023, the former director of plant operations at Curtis Bay Energy, Kenneth Jackson, pled guilty to 5 counts for his involvement in the improper handling of waste and the illegal operation of an unpermitted discharge outlet. Jackson was sentenced to 2 years of incarceration, all suspended, placed on 3 years of probation, and ordered to pay a fine of $50,000, suspending all but $30,000, to the Maryland Clean Water Fund. Again, Thomas Kiefer's case is still pending, and he is presumed innocent unless and until proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. I will now turn it over to Maryland Department of the Environment Secretary Serena McElween.
Well, first, I'd like to thank Attorney General Brown for your commitment to this issue and your department and your partnership with the Maryland Department of the Environment. This case proves that the work we do in the Maryland Department of the Environment is so important. It highlights the need for enforcement and compliance, which is one of my top priorities as Secretary. This is a great day for Maryland because you can look around and see everyone standing here worked in close partnership so that we could fight and continue to fight for healthy communities, in particular the vulnerable communities. They should know that they have a voice, and we're committed to listening. I want Marylanders to know that the Maryland Department of the Environment is not taking a passive approach when it comes to enforcement. We are not going to just stand by while communities are polluted. Together, we are taking decisive action to ensure that everyone has access to clean water, clean air, and clean land. And we will make sure that companies know when we give them permits, they are to operate in compliance of those permits. And if they do not, as we can see, if they do not, then there will be major consequences. We are performing frequent and random inspections on all the facilities that we regulate. And this is exactly how this violation that we're talking about today was uncovered. The department will continue to act as an enforcement arm and one that ensures that there is compliance to the mandatory public health and environmental protections that are in place today. We will be efficient and timely in everything that we do because we know that every time that there's an extension or delay, there is potential for more pollution to invade and be dumped on communities. This happens, what you're seeing today, this is what happens when various agencies are working together to create positive change for Maryland. I am so happy to be here today and to be a part of correcting this major wrong. Thank you.
Thank you. You can see it's very busy establishment, all the trucks coming in. Next, I'd like to introduce to you Principal Assistant Inspector General Elise Chihuahua with the United States Department of Transportation Office of the Inspector General.
Thank you, Attorney General Brown, for the opportunity to be here with you on this important day. On behalf of the U.S. Department of Transportation Inspector General, I would like to thank your entire office for their tireless assistance on this case. I'd also like to thank the Maryland Department of the Environment and the Environmental Protection Agency's Criminal Investigations Division. It was a combination of all our efforts and the effective coordination between our offices that resulted in securing today's guilty plea and landmark sentencing. Today, we can be proud that we are holding Curtis Bay Energy accountable for the criminal and reprehensible actions of its employees. The active harm they caused to their neighboring community has been put to an end. Moreover, in terms of today's sentencing, will go a long way to protecting and restoring the environmental quality of this vibrant community. This sentencing also sends a strong message to anyone entrusted with protecting public safety, that it is their solemn obligation to make safety their highest priority, above profit or commercial expediency. We at the U.S. Department of Transportation Office of Inspector General remain committed to working with our state, federal, and local law enforcement and prosecutorial partners in Maryland and across the nation. We will pursue and prosecute to the fullest extent of the law those, like Curtis Bay Energy, who would knowingly risk the health, safety, and well-being of the public and our shared environment. Thank you.
And finally, I'd like to introduce to you Baltimore City Mayor Brandon Scott. Thank you so much for being with us this morning.
Thank you, and good afternoon, everyone. I want to first acknowledge and thank all of our colleagues and our community representatives for being here. Mr. Attorney General, thank you for inviting me, but also more importantly, thank you for continuing and going through with this hard work because this is a very important day. As many of you know, Curtis Bay here in South Baltimore is one of many neighborhoods in the city that has faced decades of neglect and disinvestment. These residents in these nearby neighborhoods in Curtis Bay and others in South Baltimore is one of many neighbors in the neighborhoods that have coexisted with this waste facility for years and years while they knowingly polluted the air and the surrounding environment. This incinerator is just one of many environmental injustices this community has had to face. I want to thank the Attorney General and his team on behalf of all of Baltimore, but more specifically South Baltimore, for their determination in holding a company accountable that when they did not consider the health and well-being of this neighborhood and the people that live within it for those actions. Today is a win for our residents whose rights and peace of mind have been compromised. It is a win for the environmental justice movement because it proves that these outcomes are possible. And it's a major win for every one of us who believes that corporations should be certain that they will be held accountable if they attempt to continue to take advantage of underserved communities. The focal point of my administration has been overcoming these decades of disinvestments and neglect that have plagued far too many communities. And today, Mr. Attorney General, Madam Secretary, you are proving once again that you share that vision, but also that you see these communities that have gone unseen for far too long. But the road to overcoming this decades of disinvestment has just begun. But we can see today, and with the work that happens each and every day, that one day we'll be able to get to the other side of that road, and this is a huge step in that direction. Thank you very much.
Thank you all so much. Okay, we will take questions and answer questions. We'll take the questions. We'll provide you answers. Elizabeth?
Evidence of any residents getting sick or having any sort of negative health impacts from this?
Can you, yeah,
Hi.
give me your name.
My name is Corey Lemmert. I'm one of the assistant attorney generals that worked on this case. Can you repeat your question? I'm sorry.
Do we have any evidence from any residents getting sick from this?
Our investigation uncovered no evidence of that. And that's I can only tell you what evidence we were able to obtain during our investigation. So no.
Okay. And last name is spelled Lemmert.
Correct.
Lemmert. Corey with a K, K-O-R-Y. Next question. And I'll come over here. Sorry.
Yeah, is jail time off the table here? This is a pretty big fine here, but I think a lot of residents see the criminal negligence and want to see some people see some significant jail time.
Most environmental crimes are misdemeanor violations, maximum penalty of $25,000. They do include up to a year of jail time. Generally speaking, the way environmental crimes are classified, they're the lowest in terms of the sentencing guidelines. You can deviate for white collar types cases, which this was. So when we do bring cases against individuals, yes, there's always the potential of jail time.
Question over here. I'll keep working. Okay, right here in front, and then I'll get you in the sorry about that. What's your name?
Christine from the Sun.
Christine from the Sun. Okay.
Is there any indication why this started in 2019? I mean, maybe it was happening prior, but
Our investigation.
yeah, like is there any investigation as to why that started to happen? Was it pressure from the larger corporate structure, and are any other plants from this company being looked at by other states?
I can say the part of the public record that I think we took significant efforts to make sure that we could make as public a record as we could. So the exhibits that we admitted in the two individual cases, the facts in this case were that the Environmental Crimes Division learned of this in November of 2019, which is what started our investigation. Our investigation spanned or looked at a period from about March of 2018 until March of 2020.
And then as far as other facilities owned by the same company?
Can I speak to it?
Can you?
No.
Okay.
No.
We don't have that.
I mean, this is the largest medical waste incinerator, the facility within the state. And certainly the Attorney General's office, our jurisdiction only extends to the state of Maryland.
Question behind you. I'm sorry, and then I'll come over here.
So since this all started, what's changed as far as your enforcement is concerned? How much tougher now will it be, or should I say, tougher for people like this to get away with stuff like this? And how many incinerators like this are there across the state?
I'm told to defer to the Madam Secretary.
Yeah, I'm not sure how many incinerators are across Maryland, but that is the largest one. So in terms of enforcement, we are, as I said when I spoke earlier, we will be clamping down on enforcement. We're already doing random random inspections, and we have regular inspections as well. But as far as this facility is concerned, we've been inspecting since we learned, even more since we learned of this incident. So we will continue to make sure that we are enforcing the way we need to. And again, because of this case, we're doing a little more than the norm. Thank you.
Let me get to some people that haven't asked questions. You in the cap, and could you tell us your name and who you are? Adam with the banner.
I think my question is for Secretary McElwain.
Okay.
My understanding is that this facility had some history or record prior to 2019 of violations. I could be wrong about that, but I'm wondering if you could provide some context.
I don't think so. I have not heard of any other violations, not, except for the violations that we're talking about. But we can get back with you on that.
Secretary, since 2020,
Yeah.
can you describe how often MDE has inspected this particular facility? Did it become monthly?
Yeah.
Annually?
Well, we had one major inspection in 2019 where we learned that there were some things going on. We came back, I think that was in November or October. We came back again in December, and we had our partners with us that time. And again, this company was so deceptive, we weren't able to get what we needed when we were inspecting. And so we had to continue to come back. So instead of the regular enforcement, regular inspections that we do, we ended up coming back several times just to see what was going on because it was deceptive and we couldn't find what we were looking for initially. So yes, and since that time, we've been working with the new owners of this company, and we've been doing regular inspections since then. Random still, and we still have the regularly scheduled inspections. Yeah.
Okay, question right here.
Emily Hofstetter, WYPR.
Hi, Emily.
Radio. So there is no relationship between Curtis Bay Energy and I think it's Curtis Bay Medical Waste Services that is the company here. And if so, is this investigation part of the reason Curtis Bay Energy
Can you
closed
answer that?
down?
You want to know if there's any relation between the actual, I'm sorry, there you are,
Yeah, there's a Curtis Bay Energy
and the medical waste company.
yeah.
Okay.
Facility
You have to come to the microphone.
If you don't know, don't just say you
Yeah,
don't know.
I mean, I think we could provide more information later. I believe one is a subsidiary of the other.
Go ahead, over here. We do need to explain that. Can you explain how the new owners are actually the ones paying for this, despite the fact it's a switched ownership? Can you explain that part to them?
Thank you. Essentially, it's a parent company came in and bought it all out.
Just tell them that. That's fine. Yep.
Yeah, during our investigation, as we previously mentioned, started in late 2019. It really ramped up in March of 2020, just as the world shut down for COVID. The parent company my understanding, but parent company that owned the facility, it was sold in the years preceding that afterwards. A new parent company has come in, taken over, and I believe when we refer back to the previous owners, we're talking about the company that owned it at the time when the violations occurred, not in the preceding years as we completed the investigation.
We've been saying the previous owners, but it is Curtis Bay Energy LP that this case is against, and they have pled guilty to this case. It's still the same company.
Yeah, it's when you
It's
buy.
still the same company. Different owners. It's the same company. Oh, does it?
There's a number of names online.
Okay.
Let me
go ahead.
jump in. Let me just say this, and we can certainly clarify. The plea deal was made and entered, the guilty plea, by a corporate entity, and that corporate entity is now owned, has different owners. There's also, as Ms. Dorian mentioned, two individual defendants, one prior employees, former employees, one who's pled guilty and one whose case is still pending and is presumed innocent at this time. So in terms of the sort of connect the dots and the line diagrams and owners to entity, we can get that detail for you after this conference.
Anything else? Let me get Chris.
Well, we have not done that yet. There was an investigation going on, and we really couldn't go out and really talk about what was going on because of the case. But now that, we're at a point where we can talk more, we will continue to reach out to the communities to make sure they're not left behind and that we know what's going on. I will tell you the water was sampled. The water, when we found that there was a discharge in the wastewater, that was sampled by my department, and there was no contamination in that water. Okay.
Quick follow-up. If you're saying that the violations put the community at risk, but you didn't contact the community when you found out there were violations, shouldn't they have known? Wouldn't it be too late now?
It's not too late now to let the community know. If when we were conducting the criminal investigation, when we were conducting the inspections, if we have found at that time there were issues that could pointedly impact one of the community members or a whole community, we would have reached out, but we did not find that. That was not an issue at that time. Okay.
Right here, Christine.
Is this investigation still open? Is it possible we can see more individuals from this company charged, or is it closed?
At this point, our statute of limitations is closed. We have a 3-year statute of limitations for environmental crimes in Maryland, unless it's a felony charge.
Oh, sorry.
My question's for the mayor. I know you kind of talked about this earlier, but this is not the first time residents in this community have been hurt by pollutants. Just 2 years ago, we had that big explosion from CSX. What would be your message to residents? And again, I know you kind of talked about how they might feel unseen, but just kind of, I think it's worth emphasizing.
Well, yeah, I'll just say it again that the days of folks just being able to do whatever they wanted to do in South Baltimore are over, right? We're talking about neighborhoods that have coexisted with these things for many, many, many generations, but now it's about showing those residents that when folks are doing things the wrong way, they will be held accountable, and we're thankful to the Attorney General and his team for leading the charge on that.
Any other questions?
Since there is some federal representation here, could we expect to see federal crimes given the interstate aspect of this going to Virginia?
There is yeah, we've got no comment on that, but I'll talk to you about that afterwards. Okay, so anything else we can settle with you individually will be available to talk to you. I want to thank you all for coming out and for getting word out to the community. Chesapeake Bay Trust will be in touch, if not today, they're going to start tomorrow with the community groups about the fund, the $750,000 supplemental environmental project. So that is great news for the residents here. Thank you so much, and we can take some individual questions over there for anybody who still has them.